in, but I changed it out for my constructor. And then
Well
today,
done. They were both in the points today, and neither of the Ferraris were in the points. So you screwed up.
I screwed up.
You also fumbled the bag. Do you know how much it actually breaks my heart to actually say these words? Like, honestly, my heart is going right now.
Hi guys, welcome back to On the Chicane. You're here with me, Paris, my co-host Marium, and we're going to talk to you about what's been happening in the F1 this week. We've just come off of the round 7 race at Paul Ricard in France. It was actually a pretty good race, I must admit. We were expecting a bit of a dull one, but it proved to be a little bit epic actually. Some interesting things have happened that could have some serious repercussions for the rest of the season. And yeah, let's get into it. We're a quarter of the way in, and now, big changes are starting to happen. So let's start talking about it. I think maybe we should start with the qualifying from yesterday. Did you have any major thoughts about that?
Not really.
Not really. Did you watch it?
It's a great chat show, right? Yeah, not really. I watched quali. There are a few red flags. The session was stopped. Schumacher made it into his first Q2 of the season and wasn't actually able to race in Q2 because he crashed out, but his lap time was good enough to get him through to Q2, so that was weird. It was also quite disappointing for Stroll because I think he hadn't set a time or something by that point in Q1. So yeah, and then we had a few more red flags and stop sessions in qualifying, but nothing too unexpected, I don't think.
No, but I just want to say Gasly, who qualified 6th, I think he's kind of qualified 6th throughout, or 6th or higher throughout this year so far. So he's doing pretty well. Just a little shout out for your main man.
Yeah, do love him. Yeah, he's been pretty consistent, and even today, I think obviously we don't really get to see much of him, but he finished pretty strongly. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't really have any comments either on qualifying. I thought it was just like a straightforward qualifying for what we thought was going to be a very straightforward race, but then turned out not to be a straightforward race, right?
Yeah, which we love though, because we love the unexpected. We love that there's things going on that, kind of change it up a bit. It's nice to have a race that's usually quite steady and a little bit boring actually be not boring at all. So yeah.
Usually the most interesting thing about Paul Ricard is those blue and red the bit off the side of the track, so the runoffs. But no, today was really good. Hamilton started pretty strong, getting away off of the starting line and getting ahead of Verstappen, who had qualified on pole. So that was like a nice little fight down into turn 1. Everybody said that turn 1 was going to be the kind of deciding factor at the beginning of the race, and it was. So it was a really good start for everybody. And then, for the first 10 or so laps, I feel like it was what seemed to be a very straightforward race, right?
Yeah, definitely. I did kind of settle down into my seat and think, all right, am I going to nod off in this race?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. But yeah, yeah, it was.
And then, it just, then it started taking us by surprise, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just one thing after another, and just, yeah, as we've said, like the unexpected happened. And yeah, for the first time in a while, we saw Mercedes not the first time in a while, it's just the first time. We were just saying it's the first time that Mercedes have kind of been inconsistent consistently. Like they've kind of shown us that they're not really picking it up and bringing it back as they usually do. Usually they'll have like 1, maybe 2 bad races, and then they'll come right back and show you actually no, we still are the dominating team. But yeah, they've been quite awful the past few weeks, and yeah, it's scary now that we're getting further and further into the season, because now it kind of Hamilton's kind of championship title is
slowly slipping away.
slipping away. So
See it in the distance, getting further and further.
yeah.
So Leclerc pitted first. He was the first person to pit on lap 15.
Let's not even talk about his race, okay? Because I don't even want to go there.
No, I think, do you know what? Let's do the front runners. Let's do the main bit of the bulk of the race, and then
and then we won't mention Leclerc.
Talk about how badly Ferrari did today. So Leclerc kicked off the first round of pit stops. It was kind of touted as a one-stopper race, but the undercut here was particularly strong, and that seemed to catch a lot of teams off guard. So after the first round of pit stops, the grid was pretty straightforward. Hamilton was ahead, and Verstappen was second, Bottas was third, I believe. And then just Hamilton, I remember Hamilton saying on the radio, he's like, we should do the undercut. And in our heads, I think everybody collectively across the UK, across the world who's watching this was like, maybe it could work. That would work for them. And what did they do? They didn't do it. And Verstappen and Red Bull did it.
So basically, the Bulls actually did what Mercedes did to them in Barcelona. And both Hamilton and Bottas said, like, we should do the undercut, we should do 2 stops, like that's how this race should be, we should kind of play them at that kind of angle. And unfortunately the strategists at Mercedes just clearly just didn't have their ears cleaned this time or something. I don't know, they were just playing their own kind of game. They didn't listen to their drivers, and it didn't pay off. Both of the drivers, and I actually felt really bad for Bottas today. Again, he could have definitely brought home a Mercedes 1-2. They could have been much stronger if the strategists had actually listened to the drivers and actually paid attention to what was going on in the race as well. I feel like they could have easily taken back, the lead from Red Bull when Red Bull did the second pit stop for Verstappen, and they had an opportunity to actually go in and do some pits. It would have been risky, but it would have been a risk that probably would have paid off, because Hamilton actually had really good pace today, and I think Bottas did too. So if they had the tyres, they would have probably been able to retain that lead and probably bring home a 1-2. So I definitely think that Mercedes, the strategists, are the only ones to blame for what happened today. And I feel really sorry for both their drivers.
Yep. And it was really funny because early in the race, I was like, so Hamilton and Bottas had really good pit stops. And after the debacle that has been Mercedes pit stops this year, I was thinking, yes, okay, finally they're on job. They've actually probably gone home, practiced, and they've come back, and both of them had like 2.5 second max pit stops. So I'm thinking, yes, today we've got it in the bag, right? Like Mercedes are paying attention, and we'll do really well. And then Verstappen kind of pitted, came back out. I think he ended up maybe about 5th or 6th, and he was about 18 seconds behind Hamilton. And then they were just saying he's going to catch him. And if Mercedes had responded straight away and like pitted Hamilton straight after pitting Verstappen, then they would have been even Stevens, right? It would have just been a straight fight. But because Hamilton was staying out on his harder tyres and Verstappen was on the medium tyres, they couldn't calculate whether or not Hamilton was going to be able to make it to the end of the race, or whether or not it was going to be a situation where Verstappen was going to catch up to him with a few laps to go, which is exactly what happened. Verstappen managed to catch up to him.
Literally the last lap or something.
Yeah. And a few laps before, you had Bottas with his really shoddy defending. I understand that he was on much older tyres, and the strategy calls were bad, but you're in this position now, you've got to defend. And I just felt like he defended way better against Perez than he did Verstappen. I don't know if that was a psychological thing that he was doing, like doing a bit of a FU to Mercedes for not giving him a good strategy and then messing up their chances. But it didn't make much sense like for him, because then he was out of the podiums once Perez took him over. So for him, it just wasn't a good race, I think. And I'm just like a bit disappointed in his lack of defending against Verstappen.
No, that being said, like, yeah, it's he could have defended much better, but I don't think I'm disappointed in his race, because I think Bottas, all things considered, did put up a fairly good fight and actually showed, yeah, he's a Mercedes driver. Like, for him to bring home fourth after the season he's been having, I do think, you know, that's pretty good considering like we've been slating him and everyone's been slating him because he hasn't been performing. So yeah, I think Bottas,
yeah, in that sense, like he's been good, but I just think if you compare just those couple of laps where he was defending against Verstappen and where he was defending against Perez, and for some reason I feel like his defending against Verstappen was a bit like crap.
he kind of just gave him the position. I think he knew it was inevitable, so he was like, I'll just let you have it now rather than trying to wear these tires out more. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. But that was my only major disappointment with like with him and like Mercedes driving wise. I think absolutely everything else was completely Mercedes strategists' fault.
Yeah.
And they definitely could have just done better. On the flip side, credit where credit is due, Red Bull pulling out some major good strategy calls, positioning Perez really well.
I was going to say, you really have to give it to Perez for today's race, like one stop and bringing it home on, you know, just that one those tires where he only stopped once and like keeping up his pace and bringing home third. That's the first double Red Bull podium we've had this season, and I think, yeah, as you said, credit where credit's due. They did really well.
They did. And I think that should silence any Perez haters. Not that there should be any of you, but you guys know I champion Checo, and I'm really glad for him. As sad as I am for Mercedes, I'm happy that he's on the podium again, and I just want him to continue to do really well.
Yeah. Like, you know, the whole curse of the second driver at Red Bull and stuff. I think Perez is really kind of putting those rumors and all of that to, you know, I just think he's just doing so well. And I feel very proud of him, actually.
I'm glad I rubbed off on you.
No, he is. Like, he's a really good driver, and I'm glad that we're seeing that. I'm glad that he's not kind of had that curse fall upon him, because he's really showing that he deserves to be there. And after everything that happened last week, I think last year, the way that he kind of had that seat given to him last minute, I'm really happy for him.
Cool. So looking at the best of the rest and the rest of the grid, so after Bottas, who was in fourth, you have Norris, who was in fifth for McLaren. And can I just say, aside from the fact that I'm so happy for Norris, but I was super pissed because I actually changed my fantasy F1 to remove McLaren from one of my team's like constructors, and I flipped it for Ferrari, because Ferrari have been doing really well. Like, you've had Leclerc on pole twice, so I changed that out and left Norris in, but I changed it out for my constructor. And then
well done. They were both in the points today, and neither of the Ferraris were in the points. So you screwed up.
I screwed up.
You also fumbled the bag.
I fumbled the bag. I fumbled the bag like Mercedes today. I messed up big time on my fantasy F1, so I'm super pissed. But Norris doing so well, like his overtakes today were really on point. I think he overtook Ricciardo like twice. He overtook Gasly. Like, I think he overtook half the grid. Everybody was just like, who's in my back mirror? Oh shit, it's Norris. Okay.
Yeah, Ricciardo also did really well, all things considered. You know, he's not had the greatest season, and I sent out a tweet today actually on the Chicane account saying that I think credit goes to us for, you know, complaining about Ricciardo in the Quick Stop podcast. So guys, if you haven't listened to that yet, check it out. It's Quick Stop's podcast from this week. I think it's episode 9, and we did touch upon the whole Ricciardo situation and how he wasn't performing. But today he did perform, so I think, yeah, that's down to us, I would like to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really happy with how Ricciardo did. He had a really good race, and for them to bring home, as you said, 5th and 6th for McLaren, that keeps, and also Ferrari won in the points today, so the constructors is probably going to be quite tight between Ferrari and McLaren. So yeah, that's really gained them some major points, and yeah, I'm happy for them. They did really well.
Definitely, completely agree. I mean, I was just really shocked for Ferrari. Sainz ended up finishing 11th, and Leclerc ended up finishing 16th. So compared to where Sainz qualified, he qualified in 5th position. That's a massive drop, and that is some serious like strategy that's gone wrong. So I definitely kind of feel really bad for Ferrari, but then at the
They
same
actually
time,
even mentioned Sainz today. I don't even know if his name was mentioned.
I think there
Like
was a
literally,
lot going on up front, and I was pretty
yeah.
much sitting there, like kind of like concentrating on the top three, which is something that I don't normally do. But did you notice? I don't know if you are on Sky, but that they've started this new thing where if there's a battle lower down in the grid, they'll do a little mini
Yeah,
video box, and you can kind of watch it.
yeah.
So I guess that kind of quells my irritation with them not showing the back runners and the midfield battles. So they did show quite a few. Like I saw Alonso come up a couple of times, Ocon came up, definitely Norris, Ricardo. There was a lot going on in the midfield. I think overall today was just like a lot of overtaking, which we don't necessarily always get to see. And there was a lot of good stuff that happened. And I think, yeah, like that sections, 6th to 10th, pretty good. You had the McLarens, then you had Gasly,
Mm.
who finished in 7th. So AlphaTauri's up there. Then you had Alonso,
That
who,
was surprising, to be honest. Alonso.
yeah, he's been doing better. Vettel's in 9th. I kind of expected a little bit better of the Aston Martins, to be honest. But Vettel and Stroll still kind of came home with points. So, you know,
Exactly. Can't complain.
definitely.
Yeah.
So I think for me, do you want to do biggest winners and biggest losers?
Oh, okay. For me, definitely Perez and Ricardo, I think, biggest winners. Losers, do you know how much it actually breaks my heart to actually say these words? Like, honestly, my heart is going right now, but I'm really sorry, Ferrari, but I'm just gonna have to say my biggest losers for today. Like both the boys to finish outside of the points. That's a huge disappointment, and you've broken my heart today.
Yeah.
What about you?
Biggest winner, I would say, is Verstappen. I think he drove really well, and he could have fumbled the bag. Like he had pressure from Hamilton for a lot of laps, until at one point in the race when he was first, and he won driver of the day. He got the DHL driver of the
I'm
day. So
surprised at that, actually, that he got driver
yeah,
of the day.
yeah. I feel like Norris is my other kind of biggest winner of the
Yeah,
day. Like he did super well. If you kind of get a chance, anybody just like go back and watch his race by itself, like as a solo thing. He did really well. And I think, yeah, so biggest winners Red Bull and McLaren, and biggest losers Mercedes and Ferrari.
yeah, thanks. Yeah,
But yeah, the title fight is definitely warming up. So we're a quarter of the way through the season. And I think we are now at a point where we can definitely kind of like look at everything that's happened and start to draw conclusions and say, Red Bull are consistently performing better than Mercedes, both strategy wise, pace wise, all through sheer bad luck. They Verstappen didn't win in Baku, for example, and
yeah,
Perez did. So Perez was then poised to take the podium, and it was also not Verstappen's fault, and it was Hamilton's fault that he messed up in Baku.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things happening where Red Bull are performing better than Mercedes at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
And if that continues, then the title fight probably will be leaning towards, I want to say Red Bull. I really just don't want to say Verstappen just yet. Like, I just want to say like Red Bull in general. I'm hoping that Hamilton, even if Red Bull do really well in the like constructors, Hamilton still kind of pulls it back and comes back on the drivers' championship. But I think we are able to start drawing some conclusions with that and projecting maybe what could be happening over the next couple of races.
Yeah. We've got so this is the first triple header of the season. So we've just had France. We've got Austria coming up next week and the week after, and obviously Austria is the Red Bull home race. So yeah. I think we can expect the Bulls to be pretty strong. They actually are usually quite strong in their home race. So I think we can expect big things from Red Bull, and we're just going to have to keep an eye on Mercedes and see if they can kind of pick themselves back up again. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. But in the meantime, as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Some news for you guys. We may or may not be coming onto TikTok soon. Kind of something that we're playing with at the moment, but we'll see. But yeah, keep up to date with us there. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and comment on this video. And hopefully we will see you next time after the Austrian Grand Prix. Keep well and bye.
Bye, guys.